But like now, 2 months in, I realized that like there's no way I'm going back to another job. I remember praying at that point to God that like, God, you know what? If this is the story that you want to use me to tell, I trust this journey. I know that you'll make it work for me. I was put through these struggles. That was like the belief that I knew like that's my purpose, that's my calling. And where I'm headed to right now.
Welcome to Before We Get There, the podcast about people's life paths, the moments of change, and how we make sense of where we are now. I'm your host, Nicholas Braman, and today I'm joined by Wendy Vaz. Wendy is an entrepreneur and content creator who recently left her 6-year corporate career to go all in on her own business. We talked just 2 months after she took that leap, right in the middle of a year that included a wedding, a move, and a serious back injury. If you've ever felt a growing gap between your daily work and your own values, this conversation offers a grounded look at the trade-offs of choosing alignment over comfort. It's for anyone currently navigating a period of uncertainty who wants to hear what it actually looks like to trust the process when things get difficult. Enjoy the show. Hi, Wendy. Thanks so much for being with me here today. It's great to see you, and we're sitting here in this nice studio in KL. So I was glad to come over and be able to meet you in person. I wanted to start off with, you have some big news recently that you just finally left your full-time job and are doing your own business. So how does that feel? And how's it been so far?
It has been 2 months plus since I've left officially. And it has been a roller coaster of emotions. Like at the start of it, it's definitely like, there were a lot of self-doubt. Like I'm like, okay, this is real now. What do I do next? And I kind of had the plan before I left, but still, when I was going through it, there were a lot of voices in my head. I was looking outwards a lot. Like I was meeting up with a lot of friends who are already successful entrepreneurs and seeking advice from them about what I plan to do. And the conversations kind of stressed me out a lot at the start of it. And like, I think after a while, I realized like, okay, I was reflecting a lot too, right? I do a lot of journaling and all that. And I realized like, okay, like I knew what I was going to do. I had all these plans, but why was I looking outwards for the answer? And I think in the past month or so, I've definitely became a lot more grounded because I realized like, okay, you know what? That's not working. And that's not how I work anyway. So let's take a step back, focus on what was my plan and what I believe works and just go from there. So things have been going a lot better in the past 3 weeks or so.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
How long were you like on the fence or thinking about it, preparing before you actually took the leap?
It's been over a year, actually. Like I knew that where I was in my last job was not a good place anymore. Like there's no bad blood or anything. Like it was a good company. It was good paying. I knew what I was doing. But I was in a comfortable spot. And where the company was headed versus where I wanted my life just no longer aligned. But at the same time, I think you saw on social media, like I got married recently.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. So like there were a lot of huge things coming up and like just major life transitions, right? And a lot of big expenses. So I had to really plan my resignation ahead. So it took me about a year or so.
So when you say not in alignment, what things were driving you towards this move?
I mean, when you get to a job or a career, typically there's kind of like a way where you see how that job serves you. Like in specific areas in your career that you want to grow or just certain things that you want to do. And when I got into this job, like my last job, 6 years ago, so I was in that company for 6 years, I had different vision of what I want in my life. And that's why I joined. And I learned so much in that job. But I guess over the last 2 to 3 years, I've kind of shifted like I guess I had a better understanding of where I'm at, and I've explored certain things, and I realized it didn't work for me. And then it just changed the direction of where I want to go. And then even so, it takes time for you to kind of figure out what you want, right? So I guess like I just slowly realized that, okay, where I want to go, it's just different from where I'm headed in that job.
Is it, because when you talk about things you can learn in certain roles when you join a company, I think that's not everybody, honestly, I think has that in their career, right? Some of us are just, okay, let's find the next job and we'll figure it out as we go. But for you, what was different about starting your own business and being an entrepreneur over finding a different job that could give you the new things that you wanted?
Okay, on that note, right, I feel like I have an interesting take on that because I wanted to find another job. I feel like entrepreneurship is like the hardest thing to do. And it's like the last resort. I'm like, I don't want to do that. But I'm also someone who has a lot of dreams and a lot of ideas. And in the last many, many years, even as I'm working full time, I've dabbled into a lot of different side hustles. And I've been a content creator for many, many years. I've dabbled to YouTube, Instagram, podcasts, everything. And as I was doing all of this, I know that how do I say this? Like, I knew there are ways for me to grow these platforms, but I've also only been doing it half-heartedly because half of my attention is on my day job because it's what's paying the bills. So I had to really still focus on my job. But in the last 1 to 2 years, as I got into my podcast and all that, like I started seeing that I can actually monetize it, that people are starting to recognize me as a content creator. They recognize me for the work that I do. So I started wondering, like, what if I just give myself the chance to just go all in? Because even when I wasn't going all in, I was already seeing opportunities opening up for me.
Right.
So for me, it was a little bit more different because like there were already things coming in, but I didn't have like a full clear picture of how things are going to be like. But I just needed to give myself that space to be like, you know what? I'll just quit first and I'll figure it out. Because I did think about looking for another job, but I just couldn't figure what is the next job I want to do.
So you're a very like organized, systematic type of person. And I think, like you mentioned, being an entrepreneur is one of the hardest things to do. You're responsible for everything. Everything comes back to you, and there's no one else that cares about your business as much as you do. And there's no one out there, that's has your back or anything, right? So how has it been going? How have you been managing not getting overwhelmed or not like working 24/7 and trying to do everything you possibly can?
I'm still trying. I mean, like, on one hand, it's really like a one-person team right now. Like, I have to do everything. But on the other hand, I very soon realized that if I just keep on working and working and working and don't give myself the space to rest, I'm not giving my best work either. And a lot of the work that I do now, I would say like the body of work that I'm sharing right now, it's about how actually by calming your nervous system first, you make a lot more better decisions for your business. And it's true for myself because when I first started off, I told you I had so much self-doubt and I was definitely functioning from a place of stressed out state. Like I was just fighting or flying, right? I was just like, okay, is this right? Is this right? And I was just making decisions out of fear. But I mean, I practice what I preach, right? So I realized that very soon. And because I had a history of like mental health issues as well. And from that experience, I've already learned that like by just grounding yourself to the present, by just slowing down, things actually are so much easier. So then I like had to look back into my own advice and just take things slower. And from then on, I realized that actually when I slow down, the opportunities started opening up for me. But it's not to say that like you're supposed to just rest all the time and not work. It's just that I still put out the work, but I trust that things will come to me instead of me just rushing and rushing and rushing. Does that answer your question?
No, that makes sense. And I think the part that I admire and I'm curious about, because I've always had this hesitation to put myself out there in some ways, because like you mentioned, you're talking about productivity and about, being aligned with yourself and your beliefs and all this kind of thing. But sometimes like we're just lazy and we want to lie in bed for the whole day, or we procrastinate more than we should, or that sort of thing. How do you feel when you do that, when you have content out there telling people that maybe you're not able to follow your own advice all the time?
I mean, I think I'm just kind of chill on myself. Like I always know that I'm a human first before I'm a content creator or a coach or whatever. And I mean, you're a marketer yourself, right? And you know that for whatever that you're selling out there, you have to create a story. And basically that's how you sell, right? You tell people a version of truth to get your message across and get them to buy something. But what you choose to put out there doesn't mean it's everything, right? I preach productivity, I preach systems and tools, but there will be days that energetically you just can't show up, right? And there will be days that physically you are sick, or maybe someone passed away and you're grieving. Those days, there's no way that the systems and all that, like it can help. Like, it's like, I find that tools and systems are there to guide us to live as human beings. It's like having these tools there, tracking what needs to be done. But on days that you have to rest, like you really have to take a step back, yes, you take a step back. But when you need to go back, at least you have this tool to look into it and know like, okay, this is what I should do next. That's kind of how I approach productivity.
And how long, I always find sometimes people are either on one spectrum or the other when they start. Like either you've always been super organized and then you just found the language and the way to talk about it and the best practices and that sort of thing. Or at some point you were super unorganized and you figured out, oh, I have to get my shit together. And you started learning all this kind of stuff. Were you either of those extremes?
I think I unknowingly has been organized without realizing. I've just been like, ever since I was in high school, I thrive on doing many things at once. Like I was the kind of kid that was like top achiever in academics, but I was also like presidents for clubs and stuff like that. Like I was always out there. I was always socializing, having a lot of activities. Like I just thrive on doing many things. And I mean, that's how, so I think unknowingly I've always been somewhat organized, but I've just found the right language to educate people about how I've been working, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So I actually wanted to go back to that because you've been creating content since you were extremely young. You started blogging, you moved on to YouTube and podcasts, Instagram, everywhere. What is it that first drew you, or what is it that still makes you want to share in public and put out this content?
I mean, what started was like journals on my blog, like most high school kids. And that was when like the Blogspot days just started and everyone was doing it. Everyone at one point had a blog. And I really enjoyed it though. It was one of those things that like most people do it for a bit and then they stop. But for me, I really look forward to like just writing and journaling and put my life out there. And initially it was really all doing it for myself. But I guess I enjoyed it so much that it stayed on for like 10 years. And when I went to university, that's when, because I got into marketing too, right? And that's when I realized like, oh, personal branding is a thing. Like I got a lot of attention from my classmates and my teachers. I'm like, oh, you actually do blog. And I learned to brand it, position myself as a lifestyle blogger. And I started getting opportunities, being invited to events and all that. Like it just kind of flowed, like the opportunity just came by. And back then, social media manager was not even a job, but I got offered like a part-time gig to do that for like food companies and stuff like that, right? F&B business and stuff like that. So I guess it just kind of went on for me. But like, why did I continue to still stay on? Like over the years, there were some dips where I took a step back and all that. But I think I just really enjoy putting myself out there, sharing my thoughts, and especially when people reply to your post or whatever, right? And they tell you like, hey, I can relate to that. I love what you're sharing. Like those were the reasons why I keep on going on. Okay, go on.
Yeah. So, I'm just wondering, because out of all those mediums, which one do you enjoy the most?
I actually love writing the most. And I only switched over to YouTube because blogging was dying. And I also figured that public speaking was my biggest insecurity. And I got into YouTube at first as a project to just help me improve my speaking. Like it really was like a personal growth thing for myself. So like my early stages of YouTube, if you were to look back, there were no niche. It was so random, but it was a good practice for me to just keep on improving my skill as a video creator. Yeah.
And that fear of public speaking, so I did something similar. Because, in work, in corporate, I have no problem giving presentations, talking in front of small groups, but getting on stage and talking to a large audience was completely different. So I went through a period where I intentionally created or forced myself into opportunities where I had to speak in front of larger audiences. And it helped a bit. I mean, at least I knew I could do it. I'm not comfortable or particularly good at it, but at least I know I can get up there and do it. But I found recently, as I've been doing the podcast and other video type of content, that it's very different speaking into a camera than into a crowd. So which part of the public speaking part was hard for you?
I think back then was just being super self-conscious of my accent. Like even until today, I don't know what my accent is because I grew up in Malaysia and you've heard how Malaysians speak. We have like our own Manglish kind of accent. And then I went to study abroad in Vancouver where everyone has like a North American accent. And I was just really self-conscious because I have friends from Malaysia, I have friends from Canada, and you can adjust your accent based on who you're talking to, right? So I think I just didn't know how to show up. And I was so concerned that my Malaysian friends are going to say like, oh, she's such a wannabe to have like an American accent right now and whatnot. So I guess it was just trying to find my voice. And even up to today, like, what accent do I have?
It's a mix, right? So are you comfortable with it now? And what changed?
Yeah. I mean, I think I just kept on speaking and this is how I speak, even when I'm doing my solo episodes. Like it's not even about who I'm talking to anymore. It's just how I speak now.
And I think this goes back to a little bit of what you were talking about before. One area that I've been thinking about as well is authenticity. Like it's become a buzzword, but it's true, right? Because I think especially in the Instagram era, people were presenting very polished, curated versions of their lives. And now it's swinging back the other way. You see TikTok, people are lying in their bed, like with their phone an inch from their face, recording things. How do you think about that? About, again, presenting the lessons and the polished version versus also being authentic and vulnerable about what you share about yourself?
To be honest, I still struggle with it because I think to a certain extent, I love how when you polish up your content, it just looks a lot more professional. It just looks good. It makes you feel good. But at the same time, like sometimes that may come across to be too polished and not real, right? I think I always just go back to the fact that like when I speak, it's about the message. So I don't like scripting my messages and whatever. I always just have it in bullet points and I just say it how I feel like saying it because that's how I think authenticity comes across. So I focus, like, I think my message is like, I always focus on a message. Yeah.
And do you treat different channels like you have a different voice for different channels?
I do realize that for different channels, you have to show up differently. Like for TikTok, I can really just pick up my phone and talk. But I have so many platforms to juggle that I typically just create one kind of content and I just put it out. And I just pray that it works sometimes. But most of the time, I realize that Instagram viewers prefer this kind of videos. YouTube prefer this. TikTok prefers this. There are differences to it, but it's just a matter of like how much time do I have to adjust the style to it. So it's kind of like a mix of both. And honestly, I feel like with social media, like it's always changing and you never know what works next. Like Instagram used to be super curated, but now it's also becoming less so, but it's also kind of is. So I just decided to just not care too much. I think it's important to be up to date with what works, but also just focus on what matters more.
And do you ever get tired of it, like keeping up with what works?
I'm so tired of it. Like at this point, I feel like my social media's growth is really kind of scattered. But interestingly enough, when I stopped caring so much about how to edit and how to show up things right, my followers are growing a lot because I'm just sharing a lot about what I care about. And I guess I'm attracting the right people who care about these messages. Yeah.
I wanted to go back because you mentioned that you went to Canada to study, and we were actually very close together. I grew up in Seattle, and you were in Vancouver. But that's really far away from Malaysia. So what took you there?
It was a scholarship, actually. So I actually grew up in a household that's like below middle income family. And I grew up knowing that my parents wouldn't be able to afford university for me. Like public university in Malaysia, it's really affordable. And that would be my only option to get a university. But like I was ambitious and like I told you earlier, like I was kind of like a high achiever in school. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to study hard, do my best to get a scholarship. But I did not expect to actually get a full ride all the way to Canada. Like that was definitely a surprise.
Wow. And so if you growing up that way, I'm guessing you didn't have like have you ever been in Canada before or the US or anywhere?
No. Like I've not even left the country before. I think back then, the only place that I went to is Singapore. Yeah. And it's only like once for a short while.
And so how was it adjusting to living there?
It was definitely hard. Like I didn't even know how to dress up for the different seasons, for example. Like I actually have to prepare my wardrobe for fall, for winter. Like buying my first rain boots because it rained so much in Vancouver. And like looking back now, like my fashion sense in my first year was so bad because I didn't have to dress up for that before. I mean, on that end, there's that. And then on the other hand, education in Malaysia and in North America, it's really different. And in North America, it's a lot of like critical thinking, discussion based. And because I went to business school in UBC and I remember one of my courses, like 20 or 30% of my grade is based on classroom participation. But I was so self-conscious of my Malaysian accent. And I was so scared that I'm saying stupid things or like people are going to judge me. But so I held back a lot and my grade was so bad in first year. But only after that, I realized like, I don't know. I just had this thought that like North Americans are more superior to Asians, somewhat. And that was like a huge limiting belief for me.
And then you saw like the real side?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of realized like, dude, I'm that person who moves like thousands of miles away from home and I'm adapting to this whole culture. And then I realized a lot of people who speaks in class very loudly, like the things that they say, it's not that smart either. But it took me like, I think an entire semester or almost a year to really adapt and realize that like, I'm not that back anyway. Yeah.
And how about the life in general? Like I think you've put out some videos before talking about whether or not you considered staying in Canada long-term. But I think a lot of people in Singapore, for example, Australia's a place that people think about immigrating to, a slower pace of life, better work-life balance, more open space, and that sort of thing. So how was like the life, like you mentioned, the Four Seasons, different food, different everything?
I think I definitely really, really loved my life in Vancouver. It's such a beautiful place. Like you get to see the Pacific Ocean, you get to see the mountains, people are nice. And I actually wanted to stay back when I graduated. I actually got my post-graduation work permit. And the plan was actually to come back to Malaysia for a year just to say that, I've tried it and then go back there. But the unfortunate thing was I actually kind of had depression back then. Actually, it started when I was in university. And then when I came back to Malaysia, like the entire reverse culture shock was a thing. And then there were a lot of things that were happening. And I kind of had a massive episode again. And that was kind of like a big, I wouldn't say wake up call, but a big, I guess, contribution to the fact that I decided to stay in Malaysia. Because I realized that Canada is just way too far. Australia is still not as far. It's not like a 20 hours flight. And you need visa to go over and all that. And I think I figured that I want to be somewhere that's closer to my family so that if anything happens, we can still visit each other a lot easier. Like that was a big factor that got me to stay back. But I wouldn't mind retiring in Canada when I'm older, when my parents no longer around. Yeah.
And so dealing with depression, I think it's managed, or the societal view on it is quite different in the West compared to a lot of the way a lot of Asians feel. How was it dealing with that and being able to get through it?
I think things have changed now. A lot of times we thought that like in Asia, there's like a bigger stigma and whatnot, right? But when I opened up about my depression, I was really surprised that my employer took it very well. My parents took it very well. Like everyone was really understanding. So my opening up about it was actually a lot easier than what you might expect. Yeah.
That's good to hear. And so closeness is one factor, but I think one interesting point you brought up was reverse culture shock. I went through that the other direction. I'd lived in China for a couple of years, and when I went back, I definitely had reverse culture shock. And I've talked to some people recently, some friends that have gone through the same thing. And I think it's not talked about that much. And it's not only just getting used to wherever being back in the same place or any of that, but I think it's also when you go out on your own like that, and it's usually, if you're younger, it's maybe the first time, and you've kind of create this life in a new place, and then you lose it all in one shot, and you're back. And not only are you probably, possibly living with your family again and kind of in their territory, but you also are losing people and habits and places, and it's like can be a massive loss that you're not necessarily prepared for, because it's like, oh, I'm going home. I lived there most of my life. It shouldn't be a big deal, right?
Yeah. But I didn't stay with my family for that long because my family's in Johor and I'm based in KL now. So, and I mean, job opportunities is just more here in KL. So like, I just knew that I wanted to move to the city. I didn't want to stay home. And so coming back to Malaysia, I was like pretty much moving to an entire new city by myself. And friends that I thought that I would reconnect with, like high school friends who said that we're going to spend time together, we just don't click anymore. They didn't get my mindset coming back from a country that's just more open-minded and all that. So that part was huge for me.
I wanted to also ask you about I think that there's been a few times in the last few years that you have thought about like leaving corporate and doing your own thing, and it hasn't quite worked out. Is that like any fear in the back of your mind that this time is going to be a repeat?
I think this time around, it felt very different, but it's also because like I've learned a lot from my past mistakes. And I wouldn't say that, yeah, I think they're all failures in a way, but failure is not failure until you give up, right? But in many ways, I've dabbled into so many things before this round. And every time when things didn't work out in the past, I reflect a lot, probably get into like a little cocoon mode and just figure things out and all that. But I think what's different this time is I realized that you cannot have a plan B. Because back then, I always had this fear. I've always had this scarcity mindset that like, okay, what if things don't work out? Money's not enough. I was always stressing out about money. And because of that, I was always functioning from a stressed out state and I couldn't perform at my best. And initially, when I decided to quit my job this time around, I told my husband, like, my savings not that much. So if in a few months' time, if it doesn't work out, I'll get a job. That was the initial plan. But like now, 2 months in, I realized that like, there's no way I'm going back to another job. Because if going back to another job is the plan, you will always, like, whenever things get tough, right? You're going to be like, oh, it's okay. I still have that option. But now, without having a plan B, I'm like, how am I going to actually make this work? Yeah.
It's kind of like a burn the boats mentality when they say, you know, there's no way to go back. You don't have a choice. The only way to go is forward. I think it's from the Spanish, when they went to Mexico and the Caribbean, right? There was a lot of the alpha bro type of people talk about that.
Okay.
That example, burn the boats and then you don't have a choice. But that is a little bit surprising to me from what I know of you, because I would think that, is it because you're telling yourself you don't have a plan B, but you do have a husband who's supporting you. You have been in a successful career for longer. Like, even if it's not your plan B, there's still options out there.
Yes, I think, I mean, the husband element definitely helps to have someone else who is there to maybe support me when things go bad. But at the same time, like, knowing myself, I wouldn't let myself get to a state where like everything is paid for by my husband, because I know I'll feel really uncomfortable about it. But it's also like, it's also because I'm at a stage where I've built my career to a point where I've built so many people in my network. I've known so many people that I know is going to help me out if things go wrong. And when I say that, it's like, maybe they can give me different part-time jobs, and we also live at a time where like, if all else fails, I can just go be a Grab driver. I have a car. So that's an option too. I told my friend, like, I'd rather be a Grab driver or be a barista than to go back to a corporate job. It may sound silly, but I feel like if I were to go back to a 9 to 5 that's going to take up so much of my time and energy, I wouldn't take that, because the priority will always be what I want to build. Yeah.
And if you went back to a corporate job, you might get stuck for another 10 years.
Yeah. And it's also because I know I'm the kind of person that if I commit to something, I'm going to give it my best. Like, I know some people can do the part where like they're in a corporate job, but they prioritize their own side hustle first, but I just can't. I've made a promise to you that I'm going to work well for a company. I will do it. And that's what happened in my last job, because I was in a state where I was building my podcast. Things were coming up, but I was still always worrying about my job in the background. And I'm always like checking up on that before I put my own stuff first.
And so, taking a little bit of a wider view, we talked about obviously quitting your job, getting married, and you also had an injury, I think, at the beginning of the year. So this is like a major year, a lot of stuff happening for you. Does it feel exciting or scary or stressful or what?
I think it's exciting. I think I am very surprised by how much can happen in less than a year. Because I fractured my back just last December, and it's less than a year ago. And since then, like, yeah, I got married, I quit my job, like, and I moved my house. Yeah, I actually moved house too, because the owner wanted the place back. And to my surprise, everything is still fine. I'm still in one piece. I'm still surrounded by the people that I love. I have a career that I love. I'm doing things that I like. My bank account is not zero or negative. Like, everything is still fine. And so it got me realize how capable we are of changes if we just allow ourselves to go through it. Because with everything that was going on, I could have said no to quitting my job first because I was getting married and then I knew I had to move house. And usually when you move to a newer place, like there are a lot of additional expenses that goes with it. So at that point, I was thinking like, should I still quit my job? And I decided like, you know what, I should still do it. Because if I don't, then my focus is going to be on moving my house and getting married and my day job. I wouldn't have the capacity to build what I've always said I want to build. Yeah.
Was there a certain moment or thought that like tipped the scales or?
No, I think not really. I think it's just been long enough. I've been in this past job for 6 years. And it's just at a stage where in the company growth as well, like if they are entering a new phase, and I felt like this is the perfect time for me to leave because what's going to happen next is just not a project that I want to get into. I just wasn't interested to.
And so when you talk about wanting to or going through all of these things and learning to just let them happen, in the past, were you the kind of person who like tightly controlled everything?
I wouldn't have quit. I would have definitely stayed out of fear. Yeah. And
so do you think there was it just the fact that everything lined up and it had to be this way and you didn't have any way to be the one like to get down into all the nitty gritty and details of every, and some things you can't control, like being injured and hurting your back, right? So was it just going through that taught you that lesson? Or do you think that there were certain mantras or lessons or reading a certain book or something that helped you to learn that as well?
Well, I've definitely become a lot more spiritual in the last 1 to 2 years. And I realized that there is this common theme among all this more spiritual self-help books on manifestation. And that is really to just trust the journey. Like that's definitely one of the bigger lessons that I had. Like even when I fractured my back, I was literally at a spot where like there might be a chance that I paralyzed my entire body and I can't move, right? It was really, really scary. But even at that point, I really just trusted the journey. I remember praying at that point to God that like, God, you know what? If this is a story that you want to use me to tell, I trust this journey. I know that you'll make it work for me. Like I've gone to that level of trust in the universe, in a God, whatever you want to call it, that I know whatever happens, it happens for me. And it's how I choose to react to that situation that is going to change the narrative.
And so when you broke your back, that was really bad timing. I think I watched your video on it, right? It was Christmas Eve.
It was 2 days before Christmas. Yeah, my family was like coming to KL to celebrate Christmas with me. Yeah, it was the worst timing.
And so you're obviously in tons of pain and in the hospital and doctors tell you everything. But did it take you some time to get to that point of acceptance, or was it?
No, it was right there when I was on the hospital bed without even knowing what's next yet. I didn't even know that it was a fracture yet. I just couldn't sit up. I was just stuck on the bed. Yeah, and even then, it was already that.
So I want to go back to we've been talking about, how big of a driver it was and how you made the decision to leave because you're excited about what you're building. And I think when I've talked to entrepreneurs before, one of the things that a lot of them have gone through is what they started out building isn't what they ended up building in the end. Have you thought about that? What if your vision isn't what the market wants, or maybe you have a new vision in a few months? Will you be able to pivot?
I think I'll be able to do it because my very clear vision, it's very simple. It all goes back to the beginning when I told you I had mental health issues, right? I had depression, right? And since that spot in my life, I've always knew that my purpose in life is to help those who are struggling mentally. And for the longest time, I always tell people that like I'm a mental health advocate, and I know that's an area that I want to work with. And that's also because like I felt like I'm being blessed as someone who is good with communications, good with social media, good with just having a voice and speaking about my struggles. And then I was put through these struggles. That was like the belief that I knew like that's my purpose, that's my calling. And where I'm headed to right now, I know that it's aligned with this. And it's a lot about helping people to navigate the life that we're going through today that is a lot more stressful than before, and to just help people to feel calmer, to feel more comforted. Like that's always been a mission. So I still don't know how my business is going to turn out. I have a vision, but I am open for it to mold according to what is going to work for the people that needs it. Yeah.
And I think you mentioned before that you've been like side hustling for a while. So you have like proof of concept, you have customers that you're already working with and that sort of thing.
Yes, I do. But prior to this, in the different areas that I worked at, they were all of different niche. I was actually previously a personal branding coach and a social media coach. So it's very different. The only thing that I'm taking from there is the business model and understanding how a service-based business work. But like in terms of the people that I'm serving, there's some sort of similarity there, but it's not 100% the same.
You mentioned earlier with the reason you like to blog or do social media is because people would comment about how much meant to them what you created.
Mm-hmm.
Is it kind of similar, like the feedback you're getting from customers and how much you're able to help them?
Yeah, as long as I know that I've helped my client to transform and to grow, that is success to me. It's just how can I craft my business model in a sense that I can help as many people as possible at the same time. That's scaling, right? If you really think about it. But I just really focus a lot more on the value aspect because that's what drives me. That's what motivates me. Yeah.
And so then looking forward 2 months into your entrepreneurial journey, how many months into your marriage now?
3 months only.
Wow.
Okay.
It's really like bang, bang, all right in a row, right?
Yeah.
I like to ask this question to my guests. So if I talk to you again in 5 years, what will you like to be able to tell me has happened since then?
I'd like to tell you that my business-wise, that I've grown to a stage where I've helped thousands and thousands of people. Because right now, it's still like a handful, you know. Actually, no, it's not a handful, but it's less than 100 maybe. And I definitely want to help a lot more. And I want to tell you that like I can actually make money doing it. Yeah.
And how about anything on the personal side, like things you're working on for yourself or things that you'd like to achieve with your family or anything like that?
The typical sense, it's always financial success. Like the reason why finance is still a huge focus on doing this all, like I could just do this whole mental health awareness thing at the side as like a side hustle or like a charity thing and not focus on money. But money is a focus because I really want to get to a point where I can comfortably retire my parents or not worry that if they were to lose their job today, that I'm going to stress out about it. So financial is still a main reason why I'm tying it all to monetary growth and all that. So that will be still something that I'm focusing on. So I guess the answer is like to retire my parents if I can. Yeah.
That would be a great gift.
Yeah.
Do they know that? Do they know that's your goal?
I don't know if they know. No, I don't tell them like, Asian parents, right? They'll be like, yeah, we'll make it work. Don't worry about us,
No, that would be a great gift.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was great to talk to you and to learn about all the exciting things you're doing.
Thank you so much, Nicholas, for having me.
Thanks. We'll talk again soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to Before We Get There with your host, Nicholas Braman. Please like and subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Before We Get There Podcast. New episodes are released every other Thursday morning. See you next time.